For those of you that weren't here over Christmas, I had cataract surgery prior to Christmas, so good news is I don't have to wear glasses anymore. I needed them for distance and I needed them for reading, but right now everything's just perfect without them. So I had no idea the world was so bright and colorful. It's amazing. So very happy about that. Well, the Bible says that you are extremely complex. It says nothing about you is simple at all. Nothing is easy to understand about you. The Bible says you're extremely complex. In fact, in Psalm 139, the psalmist David says, "Thank you, Lord, for making me wonderfully complex." Guys, if you're sitting next to your wife, I want you to lean over and say, "Dear, you're wonderfully complex." Why? There you go, Danny. Wives, I want you to lean over and say to your husbands, "You're amazingly simple." We as men just have this on and off switch, whereas women have all these gauges and dials and procedures to follow and everything. It makes it very complex. But actually the Bible says that we are all wonderfully complex. To become all that God intends you to become, we have to look at every single dimension in your life. Not just one, not just two, but every single dimension. In Ecclesiastes, we learn from the Message translation, it says, "A person who fears God deals responsibly with all of reality and not just a piece of it." If you're going to be who God wants you to be, and you're going to have to look at every single aspect of your life, every factor, every facet, every force in life that you deal with all the time, to be all that God has made you to be. Well, today we're beginning a brand new sermon series, and we're going to look at all the factors that make us, well, us. They are the cards that we are dealt in life. It's dealing with the cards that we are dealt and always having a winning hand. All of these cards make us who we are today, every single one of us. Just like the poker game called Five Card Stud, we are all dealt a hand that we must play out. Each of us are dealt 5 cards or factors in life that we are to make the most of. In the scripture that Bonnie read to us today, we see life beginning to play out in the story or the parable that Jesus told. Jesus said the master goes out and gives one guy 10 talents, another guy 5 talents, and another one 1 talent. And then he asks these guys to do the best with what they've been given. Go off and make the most of what I have given you, were his instructions. Now, you're not responsible for talents that you were not given. You're not going to be judged by God for opportunities that you really didn't have. But God is going to judge you one day and evaluate your life on what you did with the cards that you were dealt. The point of the parable of the talents is that we don't all get the same thing. We all get different things. We don't have the same talents. We don't have the same backgrounds. We don't have the same pains or the problems. Or we don't have the same potential. We don't have the same anything, except we're all loved by God. We are all unique. We are all different. I remember one time getting a pair of jeans back in, I think might have been the 1970s. When I got them home, the jeans had a sticker on them, a tag that said, "These jeans have been purposely flawed to make them unique." Now, isn't that a tag that we all need to be wearing? That each one of us need to have in our life? There are 5 factors that you are dealt that create your identity. You did not choose these factors. God dealt them to you. And just as you didn't choose your talents, you didn't choose the talents that you did not get. You didn't choose a lot of the things in life that makes you you. Now, how many of you have ever played 5-card stud, played poker? Anybody? Raise hand. Oh, good. A lot of us have done that, so I feel right at home knowing that playing poker with the best. In 5-card poker, you have to play the cards that you're dealt. You don't get to mix and match them. You get 5 cards, and you're playing those 5 cards. It's not like 5-card draw, where you get to change some of the cards. Each one of us were dealt 5 cards in life. In many ways, this is a metaphor for life. There are some things that you have been dealt in life that you didn't choose. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose your background. You didn't choose where you were born or how you were born. In fact, you didn't choose your race. You didn't choose any of the talents that you have. And you didn't choose any of the talents that you don't have. There are a lot of things that make you you that you had no choice over at all. They are the hand that you were dealt, that we are all dealt. We're all dealt these 5 cards. But you've got to play the hand that you're dealt in life. Now, the Bible tells us how to still win the game with the hand that you've been dealt. And what we're going to do today is we're going to use that metaphor, the 5-card stud metaphor, to talk about life. And talk about the 5 things that have influenced your life that make you you. And then what God says to do with them to make sure that you turn that hand that you were dealt into a winning hand. If you want to understand really who you are, you have to understand the 5 factors that you were dealt that make you you. Now, the good news is we can change most of these cards. Even though we're dealt those cards, we have the opportunity to change those cards. The 5th card that we get is called a wild card, and it's very valuable for a number of reasons. It can influence the other cards. It can give us the power to make the most out of what we have. That wild card is what we're going to be talking about for the next 5 weeks. Since we all have our cards that are dealt to us, we're going to focus on that wild card. What is that wild card? If you haven't guessed already with some of the decorations that we have up, that wild card, well, we'll get to what exactly that is in just a moment. Each of us, though, are given the same amount to deal with. Some of us will use that wild card to our advantage. Others of us will ignore it, will waste it. And the rest of us then will fall somewhere in between. The point is, the wild card is your universal asset. Everybody has it. Do we use the cards we were dealt to waste that we were given, to make excuses? Or do we use the card to make the most out of our life, to live the life the way God intended us to live? So let's take a quick look at these cards that you were dealt. The first card we're going to call your chemistry. That's your first card. That's your biology. Those are your chromosomes, your DNA. It's your genes, your hormones, your chemical makeup. At the most basic biological level, it's you and in your body, and it's nothing but a bunch of chemicals. Everything that happens to you in life happens in your body, and your body is made up of these chemicals. Some of you were born, for example, with a low energy level. Some of you were born with a very high energy level. Every person has a different energy level. The point is, it's not right or wrong. Some of us were born with hearing deficiencies. I wasn't. I ruined my hearing in the 70s with loud music. So it wasn't something I was born with, I intentionally did. So some of us can't hear like others. The point is, it's not right or wrong. Some of us have good eyesight, some of us have poor eyesight. It's just the card you were dealt. It's your chemistry. And it's not right and it's not wrong. Some of us are just wired in a particular way. Some of us maybe have a low thyroid, and it doesn't matter how much you exercise, or it doesn't matter how much you try to improve on that. If you have a low thyroid, you're going to have a low energy level. You're not going to be able to become someone with a high energy level unless you supplement somehow that hormone from the thyroid. The 5 characteristics that make up your life. The first one is your biology, your body, your chemistry. The second thing that determines you, who you are your connections. Those are your relationships. Relationships that you had early in life that you had no control over. Some of you maybe have had some healthy relationships when you were little. Others of us, perhaps it wasn't so healthy. Maybe there wasn't any relationship at all. But once again, the point is, it's not good or bad. The point is, we have connections that have wired us a certain way in our development when we were young in life, and those are our relationships. Study, this is important. Study after study has shown that your identity, your self-esteem, the way you look at yourself is based on what you think the important people in your life think about you. Study after study. Your self-esteem is based on what you think people that you care about think about you. So it's your connections, it's your relationships that help determine your identity. If you feel disconnected, you're going to have a hard time connecting with people. You're going to have a hard time developing relationships. So you have your chemistry, that's your biology, your body. Then you have your connections, that's your relationships. And the third card that you are dealt are your circumstances. These are the things that happen to you. Circumstances in life you have no control over. These are the things that are out of your control but influenced your life. You didn't choose your chemistry, you didn't choose your initial connections, your relationships, and you certainly haven't chosen all of your circumstances. It's a fact of life. The things that happen to you and the things that happen around you help shape your identity. You're a product of all the traumas, all the troubles, all the good things, all the bad things that have happened in your life, all the pressures, the pain that you experience. All of those shape your life. If you've never experienced rejection, then you're going to have a different identity, self-identity, than somebody that has. If you've ever had a failure or successive failures, major failures in your life that has affected your identity, you start telling yourself things over and over again. It's a tape that runs in your head if you've had those types of circumstances in your life. Well, the fourth card that you're dealt that makes you you, and this is a big one, is your consciousness. Okay? Your consciousness is how you talk to yourself. How you talk to yourself, how you think or what you think about you. Sometimes when we're covering the scripture in John 17, which is where Jesus, we do this at Easter time, where Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and he's praying to God. Some of us say, well, how can God pray to God? How can God talk to God? Really? You've never done that? You do it all the time. In fact, you're doing it right now. You're saying to yourself, what you just heard from me did not make any sense. Or you're saying, well, that wasn't any good. Or you're saying, based on this clock up here, when are we going to get out of here? Those are things playing in your mind of talking to yourself. You're talking to yourself constantly. There is never a time in your life when you are not talking to you. Again, those tapes keep playing. If you talk to your friends the way you talk to you, you wouldn't have any friends. we are our worst critic. We're hard on ourselves. If we talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves, it would be tough. If you tell yourself that you're not very attractive, if you tell yourself that you're a loser, blah, 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 it goes on and on. You file that in your head. You file that in your consciousness. And you start repeating it. And you started saying it over and over. It's just like me to do this, or it's just like me to do that. You said it over and over, and it got deeper and deeper into your consciousness. And you kept playing it over and over and over. There's a fifth card. The fifth card, first of all, controls all the other cards because it is our wild card. It's the card that we've all been dealt, but it's our own, and it's our wild card. And it's called our choices. We choose many things in life. How do we choose to spend our time thinking about the previous four cards? The Bible says that you were created in the image of God. No other animal is created on earth in the image of God. Cows are not created in God's image. Rabbits are not created in the image of God. Monkeys aren't created in God's image. Only human beings are created in the image of God. And so why is that important to know? Why is that important? What does that mean? It means a lot of things, but one of them is that you are unique in that you have a free moral choice to make, constantly. Moral choices to make in your life. Dogs don't make moral choices. They have instincts, but they don't know the difference between right and wrong. Cats, elephants, any other animals you can think of do not make moral choices in life. They don't know the difference. The freedom of choice is your greatest blessing. It's also your greatest curse. Because we make stupid choices all the time. We make dumb choices. We make self-defeating choices. We make harmful choices that harm ourselves, harm our bodies, harm our circumstances, and harm everybody around us, which means they harm our relationships. So it becomes a negative thing in our life. It's a blessing, but it's also a curse. But here's the good news about this fifth card, this wild card. God says that it's wild and that it can change the suit and it can change the number of any of the other cards you've been dealt. Your choices can determine the outcome of these other cards in your hand. I did not choose my chemistry, but I can choose to do what I want to do with my body and how to make the most of what I've got. Those are my choices, and I can choose to do the best with what I've been given. I didn't choose my connections. I didn't choose my early relationships, but I can choose how I deal with them. I can choose new relationships. I can choose to learn relational skills, how to improve those relationships. And I can choose a lot of things that will change my connections, change my relationships. I didn't choose my circumstances. You didn't choose your circumstances. But you can certainly choose how to respond to those circumstances. You can become response-able. That means that you can become responsible. Responsible for how you choose and how you deal with your circumstances. And you can also choose on how to deal with your consciousness. When you don't control what people said to you, those old tapes that you're playing in your head go on and on and on. But you can change that. You can stop believing those things. You can choose to think differently. You can choose a different consciousness. You can control your own thoughts. You can change the rudder of your boat when you're sailing and simply change the way that you think. This is very good news, because if you choose it, you can change the number and the suit of every card, and your life and your destiny in eternity is determined by your choices. Ultimately, your identity is based 100% on your choices, and it's the wild card that changes everything. Now, how we spend our time is the theme of this next sermon series. It's called Time. It's the Time series. If you'll notice, we have started off with, what was that soap opera? The Days of Our Lives. Yeah, like time in an hourglass. Time goes by. We're all given the same amount of time in life. We can choose to spend our time to get healthier. We can choose what we eat. So we can choose our chemistry, or how to affect our chemistry. We can choose to deepen our relationships. And that is so important, so critical. That's an intentional choice to make your relationships better. They can be better than what they are right now based on what you choose to do and how you choose to deal with people in your relationships. You can also choose to trust God in every circumstance, no matter what happens. You can choose to trust God regardless of your circumstances. And that gives you an identity that nobody else is going to have. You're going through a particularly hard time. It doesn't have to tear you down and ruin the rest of your life. Because if you turn it over and trust God with your circumstances, it will work out. We can also choose to spend our time on what we think about. You can't choose what other people say about you, but you can choose whether or not to remember that, or choose whether or not to believe it. You can change your brain. Your brain is elastic. It's not concrete. And your brain can change. It can be rewired regardless of what's happened in your past. It doesn't matter. Some rewiring is more difficult than others if you've got some really deep-seated things to change in your life and how you perceive them. And others are going to be easier to change in your life. There was a guy in 2002 that won the Nobel Prize in neurobiology for proving that you can rewire the adult brain. Prior to that, it was widely believed and accepted that you can't change your brain, that you can't rewire your brain. But in 2002, it was proven, or actually before that, it was rewarded in 2002, that you can rewire your brain. I think it's great that science finally catches up with the Bible. Because in Romans we're said, don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you. Let His transformation of you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Finally, science catches up 2,000 years later with the Bible. The next card that we can choose is we can choose to think about Christ in every moment of every day. We're talking about letting Jesus be your guide every moment, keeping Him in the forefront, thinking about Him all the time, and not the problems or not the circumstances or not your chemistry or the other cards in life that you've been dealt, but you choose to have Christ as your guide. This is exactly what we're going to be looking at over the next several weeks. Our next sermon series is on the gift of time. Time, the gift from God to every one of us. How we use it can be a blessing or can be a curse to our daily lives. Using this gift of time to the fullest, making the most of our lives with the some 1,400 minutes that every one of us is given every single day, is our way of giving back to the giver. He gave us life. He expects us to live it to the fullest, and in doing so, we can give back to God. And that is very rewarding. Amen. If we could have our ushers come forward, please.